Tough it out. The long dismissal of women's pain. The tough it out remark in the Tylenol-Autism controversy did more than set a narrative about pregnancy and medication. It echoed a deep, persistent pattern in medicine, the dismissal of women's pain. For centuries, women's experiences of pain and discomfort have been minimized, trivialized, explained away, or normalized as just part of life. This article situates the recent controversy within that broader history, showing how many women's symptoms of pain and discomfort have not been medicalized until very recently, while there has been a historical expectation that women should endure pain, and how this reinforces a gendered knowledge gap. A historical pattern of dismissal. The idea that women should endure pain without complaint reaches far back in history. Hysteria and wandering womb theories. In antiquity and through the 19th century, women's pain and psychological distress were attributed to the uterus, pathologizing their bodies while trivializing their symptoms. Period pain. Dysmenorrhea has often been dismissed as a normal part of menstruation rather than recognized as a medical issue. Many women were told to endure cramps even when they indicated conditions like endometriosis. Endometriosis. For decades, the condition was under-researched and underfunded, not taken seriously by the medical establishment, framed as a natural byproduct of menstruation rather than a debilitating chronic illness. Menopause and perimenopause. Rather than being approached as stages requiring nuanced care, menopause was either ignored as just part of aging or narrowly medicalized through debates over hormone replacement. Women's wider symptoms and pain were often minimized as psychological or inevitable. Each of these examples shows how women's embodied experiences have been deliberately categorized as normal stages rather than legitimate medical concerns requiring treatment, support, and empathy, even in sociological textbooks. In contemporary sociology, critiques of medicalization have highlighted the creep of pharmaceutical and clinical frameworks into parts of life that may not need medical solutions. Typical examples that they cite are anything relating to medicating children for conditions like attention deficit syndrome or hyperactivity. But strikingly, a number of prominent 21st century textbooks listed women's cycles and life stages, menstruation, menopause, endometriosis, perimenopause as areas that perhaps should not be medicalized, that they should be left as normal. And who were the authors of such statements? Male sociologists. They were implicitly echoing President Trump's tough it out line, that pain in women's lives is to be endured rather than addressed. This is upsetting for two reasons. One, it shows how even progressive disciplines can reproduce dismissive attitudes towards women's health. Two, it underscores the absence of parallel critiques about men's health. There was no suggestion in these texts that erectile dysfunction, prostate enlargement, low testosterone, or even male pattern baldness should be seen as normal life stages that did not merit medical intervention. Conditions affecting males are very thoroughly medicalized. The building blocks of sociology, this disappointment is magnified by the very promise of sociology. Sociology is often associated with leftist movements and for good cause. It is a discipline that exposes inequalities and concentrations of power and wealth. It deconstructs the building blocks of society and holds a mirror up to what society is, what culture is, what social life is. Its power lies in its ability to show how social structures such as class, race, gender, power, and wealth are not natural givens but constructed arrangements. Once exposed, these blocks can, at least theoretically, be rearranged to build back something greater and more equitable. This is what terrifies those in power about sociology. But it doesn't have to be a tool of socio-political revolution. Medical sociology, for example, has been particularly important in revealing the social determinants of health, the unequal distribution of care, and the ways in which professional authorities shape patients' experiences. It is what we use to illuminate how the knowledge gap between healthcare professional and patient is not a fact of nature, but a product of institutional choices, a structure that can be deconstructed and rebuilt in a far better way. For this reason, it is particularly jarring to read in some of the most prominent sociology textbooks of the 21st century passages that mirror Trump's "tough it out" message. To suggest that women's health issues such as period pain, menopause or endometriosis should not be medicalized is to accept the endurance of suffering as normal. Rather than deconstructing power, it reinforces it. Rather than rearranging the blocks towards equity, it uses them to fan inequality. The gendered double standard. Trump's tough it out line reflects this same double standard. Women are expected to endure suffering because it is supposedly natural. There is a by now well-established pattern. Men's conditions are medicalized, monetized, and treated as requiring urgent solutions. Women's conditions are normalized, trivialized, and framed as requiring stoicism. The paradox for women is that even when life stages are medicalized, the framing often serves institutions more than patients. Pregnancy, over-medicalized in terms of monitoring and risk management, yet women's own accounts of pain and discomfort are often sidelined. Childbirth, historically pathologized as a medical event rather than a physiological process, yet women's reports of labor pain are still frequently undertreated. Menopause, framed as a hormonal deficiency to be correct rather than a stage of life requiring holistic support. This approach widens the empowerment gap. Professionals control the narrative while women's lived experiences remain marginalized. Why tough it out stings so much? The phrase tough it out is not new advice. It is the latest echo of a long history where women's pain is dismissed, seen as exaggerated or imagined, normalized, cast as a natural burden of womanhood, deprioritized, placed behind institutional interests, cultural scripts, and male health priorities. Our reframing of the knowledge gap as a choice applies sharply here. Institutions and disciplines, whether medicine or sociology, choose whether to validate women's pain or to dismiss it. When they default to dismissiveness, they widen the gap between authority and patient experience. That gap is gendered. Women learn that their voices and symptoms carry less weight and their trust in institutions erodes. One way forward could be to consider the following. 1. Acknowledging women's pain as real. Normalize listening to women's accounts as valid evidence, not exaggerations. 2. Challenge the double standard. Question why male-only conditions are medicalized while women are told to endure. 3. Reframe life stages. Treat menstruation, endometriosis and menopause as legitimate areas for care, not as naturalized burdens. 4. Close the gendered gap. Use clear, empathetic communication that affirms women's experiences rather than dismissing them. Tough it out is not just a populist throwaway line. It is the most recent expression of a long tradition in which women's pain is minimized and normalized, while male health issues are medicalized and prioritized. The phrase condenses centuries of dismissal into 3 words. To counter it, institutions must do more than issue clinical corrections. They must confront the gendered knowledge and empowerment gap directly, reject the double standards that shape health communication, and speak to women not only with facts but with recognition, empathy, and respect. And disciplines like sociology, which pride themselves on exposing inequality, must ensure they are not replicating the very dismissals they exist to critique. Epilogue. The Tylenol-Autism debate. The knowledge gap and the future of trust. The Tylenol-Autism controversy is not only a case study in false information, it is also a mirror showing how fragile public trust in science and medicine can be when communication falters. Across this batch of videos on this subject, we have traced the contours of the knowledge gap, how institutions too often choose jargon over clarity, hedging over empathy, and process over narrative. These choices leave the gap open. Populist figures with their drama, fear, and certainty rush to close it, falsely but persuasively. The lesson is clear. The knowledge gap is not inevitable. It is created and sustained by choices. The choice to write in the medical register instead of plain language. The choice to prioritize risk avoidance over resonance. The choice to normalize women's suffering while urgently medicalizing men's conditions. Each of these decisions widens the distance between expert and layperson, between science and public. Closing the gap requires new choices. Institutions must lead with clarity and empathy, not hedging and delay. Pair facts with narratives that resonate emotionally. Recognize gendered double standards and validate women's experiences of pain. Empower patients by strengthening health literacy rather than assuming it. If institutions fail to act, they will continue to lose the battle for public trust. False information will keep traveling faster than truth, and dismissive phrases like "tough it out" will keep finding fertile ground. But if institutions choose differently, if they close the gap with empathy as well as accuracy, they can reclaim trust, strengthen patient well-being, and ensure that truth not only survives, but prevails. Thank you for listening. Mark Gibson, Leeds, United Kingdom, September 2025.